Now by John Feiner, former principal deputy national security advisor in the Biden administration, Thomas Nides, former U.S. ambassador to Israel. Ambassador, I want to start with you because so much of this also depends on how Israel is engaging in Lebanon, or whether they stop engaging in Lebanon. At what point is it important for the United States, for Iran and these mediators to actually bring Israel to the actual negotiating table?
Well, let's be clear. The Israelis, what's been going on in Israel vis-a-vis up north, Hezbollah has been causing havoc up in the north. Israel has been responding to that. Listen, no one's going to question the Prime Minister has very little interest in this transaction, this deal at this point. Ultimately, they also have, as John and I both know, a lot of things can be true at the same time in foreign policy. Israel's trying to defend their north. Bibi doesn't really want to do this deal. There's an enormous amount of anxiety among the Israelis. I was in Israel 2 weeks ago and spent a lot of time in the bunker as bombs were dropping down in Israel. So listen, a lot of things are confusing here, and the Israeli people are quite unhappy as well. So there's a lot of pressure on Netanyahu to keep it going in Lebanon, and obviously that's going to have a huge deal on trying to get this deal done.
John, just to stay on this topic of Israel, and there's obviously a lot to get to in terms of the actual mechanics of the potential deal that's being negotiated in Switzerland right now, that beautiful view in Bergenstock that we're looking at. But for all of the voters, including some Democratic voters who thought that Israel was going to be a bright spot for this president and that he was going to have a better relationship with Netanyahu and prioritize the relationship with Israel. Has this week been a wake-up call for any of those voters, or has it, has it reinforced what some people had already been skeptical of in terms of Trump's real posture towards the country?
Well, there's an interesting dynamic going on, which is that Israel has to hold an election by October. The government's mandate expires then, and so an election has to be called in order to renew the mandate of the government. Netanyahu, the prime minister's strategy going into that election had been stay as close as possible to Donald Trump. Netanyahu's poll numbers in Israel are not great. The current government, if the election were held today, would struggle to form a majority that could continue to govern the country. And I think his bet was, as long as he's got Trump's support, Trump was very popular in Israel, that is a path to potentially being reelected. Now, in light of this deal, which is very unpopular in Israel, and the word Lebanon appears, by the way, 3 times in the first point of the deal, Trump's poll numbers in Israel have fallen. Netanyahu's strategy of relying on Trump for his own reelection campaign is not looking as promising. And so for all the reasons Tom described, but also for his own politics, crossing the United States is a more viable option now, and maybe even a popular option for Netanyahu, which makes this deal a lot harder to hold together.
Ambassador Nides, thank you for being here. I especially wanted you to be here as the former U.S. ambassador to Israel, because to me, this all boils down to Prime Minister Netanyahu. Former Secretary of State John Kerry told our colleague Jen Psaki in an interview a while back that, Netanyahu has been trying to get a U.S. president to attack Iran. He asked Bush, Obama, Biden. They all refused. President Trump is the only one to follow through. Can you talk about this long-held desire of his and how where we are now runs counter to his actual goals? Well,
it's very interesting. John knows this well. You sit in the Prime Minister's office in Israel, and on his wall is not a map of Israel, is a map of Iran. If one thing for sure, Netanyahu has been very consistent for 40 years that the single biggest threat to the security of the state of Israel is Iran. And by the way, he's probably not wrong. I mean, look between Iran and Hezbollah and the Houthis and Hamas. It's a serious problem for Israel. The question is, and I think one of the things I'm obviously a little bit biased, if we had kept the JCPOA in place, because to be clear, there is the chances of them getting as good a deal as we cut for them, in 2015 is highly unlikely. And the Bibi is seeing that to be true here. So there's no question his focus on pressuring Biden and pressuring Obama, and quite frankly, going back to Trump 1, has been consistent. And the reason why it hadn't gotten done, guess what? It's really, really complicated, as President Trump is now finding out.
Jon Finer, we just heard the vice president in the intro here saying that he was going to be here for a day or two, I think is the way that he put it. Is that kind of timeline of him who's leading the negotiations, does that make everybody else work faster? Or does it make it harder to actually have a negotiation where the lead negotiator is saying they'll be there for about 48 hours?
Well, Eugene, I wish it were the former, but I think it almost is guaranteed to be the latter. One thing I can say with some confidence about negotiating with the Iranians, which I did for multiple years during the Obama administration, during the JCPOA talks, is everything takes longer than you want it to, and frankly, longer than it should. They're just very difficult negotiating partners. They're stubborn, and right now, unlike in that period when we were negotiating the JCPOA, they really believe they have the upper hand. They believe the United States has played its best card, military action against Iran, that the regime there survived, that they showed they were able to hold the entire global economy at risk by closing the Strait of Hormuz, and that the advantage is on their side in these talks, and they're not going to give up anything easily. And so I worry a lot that this is all being done by part-timers on the U.S. side. Obviously, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, not full-time government employees, but even J.D. Vance saying, I'm only going to be there for a day or two. John Kerry spent 19 days in Vienna consecutively at the very end of 2 years of intense negotiations with the Iranians to finish the JCPOA. And unless they bring to bear that kind of consistency and persistence and effort to get this done, all of these little problems that we've been discussing day to day are going to unravel this deal.
Jon Finer, thank you so much for breaking that all down for us. Ambassador Thomas Nides is going to be back with us later in the hour as we're going to continue to watch the unfolding talks in Switzerland.